Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. Well, is there any breaking news? The market's playing games again, up and down. So I guess I gotta keep track of the gold stars. I guess it looks like Tim gets a gold star sticker on the side. He's first between Tim, Kay, and Ann. Lucy. JJ. Kyle's busy today, Kay. I know you had some quiet time today. Oh, Angela. Yep. What time do you get home, Angela? Or is it Angie? Oh, Angie. Sorry. Danielle, thanks for the comment you left the other day. That's another name I get confused on. I think it's Daniel. The other one I get mixed up on. I got 4 videos for you tonight, JJ. They're about 4 or 5 minutes. They're short one. Well, there's a 12-minute one, but I got so much other stuff to share. Okay, and now I gotta make sure if it's Danielle or Daniel. I think it's Daniel or Dan. I don't know. I get confused on the name. Sorry. Of course, Carol must be eating dinner. So I guess I don't know if you guys want to hear Liz Cheney's family. They were honoring him today. I don't want to listen to it. Well, she heard me. Soup tonight, huh? Kimberly, Dragonfly, where are you?
Remember this right here.
How did I get that? We had a good show last night. We got about 300 from the count yesterday. 290, 290 something, 292, 293. So we're getting everybody coming back. Everybody's starting to find me. How's your stock market, JJ? Oh shoot! And then I got another Lucy Lori. That one that you sent before has a video that she sent me. I got to see how long it is.
Are you stuck in the end?
Shoot. Oh boy. It's too long. It's an hour. I want to play it, but it's too long. Okay. Waiting on Starfire and a few others. Terry. Yeah, I want to play. Go ahead and start on Jacqueline's news. So it's a little bit early, but I got a few videos I want to show her. The first one's 12 minutes. I'll log in the Telegram here. Before I start the video, Fox is showing that there's a representative from Florida saying Trump approves the Ukraine Russia peace plan, you guys. I wonder if that's going to be coming out soon. That means when that's over with, Trump works to end the Russia Ukraine war. So that could be interesting. Who we got here? We got, can't see the name here. BLO259. Welcome and thank you for following me and just be respectful. And other than that, yep, yeah, there's a lot of things going on. Like I said, there's so much. I wonder if this war ends. I wonder because they said the 22nd there was supposed to be something big. So I don't know. I hate, everyone's saying all the time. You can call me Robert. I don't like the sir. um. So yeah. Does anybody know about the NASDAQ number in order to get really bad? Because it was really bad today. So I don't know. But we'll go ahead and get going on Jacqueline's intel. Ori. That's why
Melbourne
I'm
with
the
a pep in his
chair,
step because
Ori.
everything's fine. And Liberal Town now there's a new leader. It's just a formality,
here.
right? Okay. So let us just talk here. And again, look, I get it. State politics, if it is not the state of which you live in a national show can be a little bit frustrating. But I did want to talk about what is now starting to happen here, which is you're seeing next generation, you're seeing a change in gender. You're starting to see the Liberal Party, which is always referred to, Michael, as the one that has a problem with women. And yes, you can point to that in terms of the seats, 27 of the 28 that have been lost since 2022. When you look at the electoral roll, every single one of the 27 of those 28 had more women enrolled to vote in those electorates than men. And of course, I'm not suggesting all women at once and all blokes, but nice foot forward. This is a good thing that they're going to do in New South Wales. If it makes you competitive in an electorate that in many ways wants to see a change, good.
Yeah, look, it's going to be tough still. The coalition need, I think, 12 seats up there, and it's over a 9% swing to win government. So that's a big number. But look, she's very presentable. She's very bright. She's got a very good career in the media, which certainly helps you a lot. And as I was saying last night, I mean, look, mate, the personality of a leader in state politics is today incredibly important because the public don't have time to read through every policy and understand everything. They go by a general. They vote according to their general impression. The general impression of the two leaders. That's basically what they're doing these days. And Malinowskis is a perfect example. Everyone seems to like him, but no one could name a single policy he's got. So I think she's going to be good. And we've got a star down here in Jess Wilson, who, again, another big mountain to climb. But if anyone can climb that mountain, she can, because she's had a wealth of experience in politics all her life.
Now, let's all feel old together. About 20 years ago, Joe and I were working at the New South Wales Parliamentary Press Gallery.
That's right. Back when democracy was great.
Oh, wasn't it just? Everything was flawless and
shining a light in dark corners.
But what's really interesting is that as so much policy and politics has changed, right? It was really interesting. And look, you know, you don't want to kick a guy when he's down, but still, when everyone's giving out sort of the roses to Mark Speakman, oh, what a wonderful speech. It was 30 minutes and he was carrying on like he'd been the Prime Minister for 15 years. Again, great, fine, fair enough. Thank all the people you have to. I get it. But he also needed to be jelly-knotted out of the damn thing. And the reality is that fixed 4-year terms, generally not in places like New South Wales one-term governments. So the conversation that will inevitably be happening, or the pitch that happens, is give me 2 cracks at it, give me 2 cracks at it. Reality, though, is Peter Dutton would have thought that at a certain point in time. Jess Wilson maybe to a certain point in time, and potentially Kelly Sloan here too. So there is a reality here that Chris Minns is doing pretty well. He's moved the ball forward, but he's leading a minority government right now.
Yeah, look, I think technically he may, with the latest Kiama by-election,
but it's just
win,
either B's
yeah, that's right. So I think he might just be in front. That is absolutely true. Technically, it was until very recently a minority government. However, the margins that he got in some very, very blue blood Liberal seats at the last election, like he looked like he was going to knock off a few, you know, like he was getting 15%, I think, in one of the seats in southern Sydney, you know, real blue ribbon Liberal stuff. So in a sense, it was a very uneven swing towards Labor, but I don't think Chris Minns.
I don't know what you mean by the name back. That Garrett 101. Hey, welcome back. I don't know what you meant by that.
Is going anywhere. I think Kelly Sloan is an absolute fantastic choice as leader. I think she was the obvious choice and the only obvious choice as leader. And frankly, I think the fact that Mark Speakman didn't realise when it was time to go just underscores how unsuited he was to the job. It just could not. I mean, you could not read the room less than to know that this was your chance, frankly, to potentially dodge a bullet because he would have underperformed badly, but also to shore up your political future. He could have, like a John Brumby, come back. Admittedly, didn't go well at the polls, but at least got to say he was premier. You step aside gracefully. You say, the colleagues have spoken, and you arrange for yourself to become the next shadow treasurer or whatever.
Correct.
And then in state politics, as the last Liberal government in New South Wales show, it's like a kid's birthday party, pass the parcel. Everyone gets a prize. Everyone gets the present. Everyone got their turn.
Now, Michael, I asked Stephen Conroy this question last night, and it probably should have been the one that I
Okay.
led off with you now. But as a bloke who, of course, party
trying to
president, you've been
remember
around, right? Have you ever been, and now let's not do names here, but have you ever been in one of those conversations, the looking the dead duck in the eye, saying to them on the day where they woke up saying, I'm going to hold on, but by the end of the day, they're done. And generally speaking, do they know it, or do they all think they're Winston Churchill and, no, I've got to come back in me? Like, how give me an idea about what some of those more uncomfortable moments are like, because obviously everyone likes each other. Well, not always, but give me an idea what it's like when you are tapping on the shoulder.
So, mate, I was in one of those discussions. Normally in the Liberal Party, it's a matter for the members of Parliament. So people outside the parliamentary party basically don't have much of a role. But I was in one of them many years ago. I remember more talking to a few federal members back in the late 1980s, where I had to go to their home and explain that I was withdrawing my support from their pre-selection. And whether it's a leader or a member of Parliament, you get the same reaction. And it's a belief that they can do no wrong. They've been told for years that they are going to be Prime Minister. They're going to be Premier.
Be blocked.
They're fantastic. You gave a great speech. You're wonderful. So many people, the adulation that our MPs get is extraordinary from the public, from party members, from the media, etc. And they believe it. That's why the disconnect between Canberra and Spring Street, state parliament around the country, and reality can be a big one. Many of our MPs are totally out of touch with what is going on. That's the problem, because they fall victim to the adulation syndrome and they believe it. And
but also,
they don't believe you when you tell them it's time to go, mate.
But also, it's the thing about politics, and Joe, you've seen and heard this from the media side of things. So many politicians believe the ultimate solution to everything is more me. Sometimes me is the problem. And when you're having a conversation with just general people going, more me will work, you go, no, it won't. All right. A couple of other things to get to here, including, before we get to the net zero of it all, I like that in Victoria, they're starting to talk about the idea of actually changing laws to say that, like, a week before an auction, the actual reserve price must be known to all of the people that are going to try to bid on a house. This is a very nice, very simple, I'm sure somebody else's idea, but I'd love this to go national. Why? Because we've all been in the scenario where you put in the little search to realestate.com.au about where am I going to go, and then you start to go, ooh, this one, and it ends up being very different because of the information that real estate agents are putting on it. You think that this is a good idea?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, and similar things have been tried in Victoria and here in New South Wales as well, where, you basically said you can't, you're banned from underquoting, and in real estate agents who underquote are going to get, severely penalised. And of course, you round them up afterwards, even send in secret agents to auctions and stuff and speak to you, how much do you reckon it'll go for, blah, blah, blah. And even when they're out by a factor of hundreds of thousands of dollars, which was inevitably always the case, they could just say, but I honestly thought that, defense of the truth, Your Honour.
Yeah.
So I think it does need to be something more set in stone. You can't obviously pretend you don't know what the reserve is. So, roll it out and roll it out everywhere.
Fine and fair enough. Now, Michael, let's get to the cop of it all. Don't you love the Prime Minister, once he's sort of been rejected by, the beautiful object of affection that is the United Nations? He tried to cuddle up. He brought the roses and all of it. It was going to be a big night. Big couple of days in Adelaide, right? United Nations says, sorry, we're going with Turkey, but don't worry. Here's the lipstick on the pig, which means old mate Bowen can keep blah, 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 blah. Here's the deal, right? I love that they're all going to turn around, and I heard a couple of people say this, they weren't really that into it. Garbage. They spent millions of dollars being into it.
I saw the...
Yeah, I think you're right, Kay. because I know I'm not doing it. I don't think. Maybe I don't know if I pushed any buttons. I don't know what's going on. I'm gonna have Michelle work on it. It might have been me, but I don't think it was me. But yeah, I'll get his pipe blocked. Right now. It's YouTube. Okay.
Video a minute ago of Bowen saying we're hot favourite to win. Look, here's the
4
reality
minutes
of
on
this.
this one.
One, Labor are very lucky they didn't get this conference.
Agree.
I mean, $2 billion in Adelaide. I mean, there would have been a whole year of Susan Lee and Dan Tehan and every state Liberal leader talking about how $2 billion is going on this conference. That would have murdered Labor. They are very lucky. Secondly, what's the world done? The world has enough problems, Paul. Now we've foisted upon these unsuspecting nations of the UN Chris Bowen, right? For a whole year, this bloke's out there banging. It was bad enough to foist on the Americans Kevin Rudd, and now we've foisted on the world Chris Bowen. I mean, the only good news is that the more time he spends out of the country, the better. But here's the rub of it. Susan Lee has probably had her best week as leader of the Liberal Party this week.
Yeah, I agree.
And Dan Tehan's done very well too. She's turned what could have been a disaster, and many of us thought this might turn into a disaster, net zero. Lee has very successfully turned this into a debate about one question. When will energy prices go down, Mr. Albanese?
Yep.
And she's said it 100 times this week, and it's impacting. And I think it's impacting a lot more than the loss of a net zero target, because people think they've now starting to think they've been conned.
No,
so she's had a good week.
I agree completely, but it's also why it's like why I point out the Murray Watt thing, right? Get ready for the lie being they don't believe in climate change. They don't think anything to do. No, despite the fact they've all stated their position. That's why I'm showing it. That's why I'm going to keep showing it. So when you inevitably have these arguments over a weekend, you get to push back. Lads, I literally need 5 seconds from both of you. Winner, loser of the week. Jay Hildebrand.
Look, I'm going to go with winner Kelly Sloan, pretty self-evidently. She won in a really clean way without even getting her hands dirty, so a classy act. The loser, I was going to go with Mark Speakman, but he's already suffered enough. So I'm just going to go with anyone who's in the Epstein files.
I think that could be prepared.
You're going to have a rough few weeks.
Not a single traffic light, but the global...
I got one of those. Michelle's going to work on it, okay? She's going to check it out. Here's another one for... Okay, thanks. This one's 6 minutes.
No. Some salacious? No, not at all. Paula Ward was forced to resign for comments she made to a meeting of 1,000 university staff members. The Deputy Vice-Chancellor told staff that the university would introduce stricter working from home rules to stop them from getting a 4-day weekend by working remotely on Fridays and Mondays. Well, staff were outraged. They described the comment as disgraceful.
How dare you?
National Tertiary Education Union Secretary Andrew Miller said the comments showed that the Deputy Vice-Chancellor didn't trust the professionalism of staff. It showed that she fundamentally isn't sensitive to their flexible work arrangements and their patterns of work, because a lot of staff have caring responsibilities, children, and other factors that have so far been accommodated in a progressive workplace. The Deputy Vice-Chancellor promptly realised the error and apologised, but the damage was done. To which I say, what damage? She said something true. If you're pitching to work from home on Fridays and Mondays, you're clearly angling for something approaching a 4-day weekend.
How dare you?
The Deputy Vice-Chancellor shouldn't be out on her ear. Joe, I reckon she should be brought back and promoted.
I think people are still grieving, James. People are still traumatised by this academic. I mean, I thought anti-Semitism was bad in this community, but to have people daring to criticise the 3-day office working week. I mean, do they have enough therapists at the University of Adelaide to accommodate this? This is just, I think the amazing thing is it's not whether she said was right or not, or true or not, or whether staff were, taking the piss or whatever. I'm sure, most of them are working very hard and doing lots. And I work from home myself a lot. But the idea, I just cannot for the life of me get around. I mean, there are people who have been marauding campuses across Australia with all sorts of, there have been academics who've famously said that Israelis or Zionists should be made to feel uncomfortable in the community, about as close to a threat to someone on the basis of their ethnicity or ideology as you could possibly get. And this is the person who's been sacked, someone who said, oh, can we all just go back to the office a bit more, please? Like, that to me is just bonkers. And it just shows this nutsness of universities these days. And I've got a lot of friends who work in them, and they're honestly just tying themselves in knots. This idea that, any move to make campuses, a space free from open Jew hatred and harassment is an encroachment on freedom of speech. But anyone who says maybe, 3 days in the office isn't enough has to be walked out and shot in the back of the head. Like, this is just mind-blowing.
Yeah, exactly right. It makes no sense. And she's also just objectively correct.
Absolutely.
All the studies show that on the whole, working from home does decrease productivity. And that's at the best of times, let alone strategically selecting your days. So, what do you know? 4-day weekend right there. I'm sorry. Academics, even when they're good, are pretty lackluster in terms of performance and productivity, let alone an academic working from home, let alone an academic who acknowledges the reason they want to work from home is because of childcare and other responsibilities. So when the teachers union says it's a progressive workplace, I think they really mean progressively less work is done when they are not at the university, and that's why they like it. So I don't blame them for defending their right to do less work, but we as the taxpayers who ultimately pay for these universities should not accept this.
Technically, I will just say it's not actually the teachers' union, but it's the National Tertiary Education Union, which is probably the most kind of ideologically extreme sort of unions. Like, it is right to the kind of, let's just say these guys are all in on
the comment from the union rep who said, these comments show that she's insensitive to staff. And then he goes on to say, as you said, Freya, that they've got caring responsibilities, they're looking after children. There's other reasons why they want to work from home other than that it's good to work. I would say, far from being insensitive, she's got her finger exactly on the pulse and knows exactly what's going on.
Exactly. If she knows what they're up to. And the answer is, if you can't juggle your work with other things you've got to do, well, maybe just drop down the days that you're working. Don't make taxpayers keep paying you for full-time work when you really only want to work 3 days
and stop
a
your
week.
kids getting sick only on Mondays and Fridays.
That's another good one, the sickies.
Okay, I have one more 5-minute
story that we are following.
one for sorry, Kit or JJ, I got 2 out for you tonight. Oh, shoot. Okay. I got 2 Q videos coming up next.
Several members of Congress committing treason. Donald Trump woke up this morning and agreed with me. Donald Trump woke up this morning on a warpath. What the Democrats did yesterday was completely and utterly unexcusable. I mentioned this. I did an entire video on it over on Truthville, and Donald Trump woke up and, like I said, 100% agreed. I don't know how you could look at it. The Democrats did a video, and they encouraged members of the military to defy Donald Trump's illegal orders. Now, they attempted to protect themselves by saying illegal orders. Obviously, if an order is illegal, you don't have to abide by that. But when it comes to orders from your president, from your commander-in-chief, you sure as heck better make sure that it immediately and completely defies the Constitution, which the problem is, as Donald Trump said, the Democrats consider any orders that they don't like as being illegal. Now, explain to me how sending the National Guard into a state or a city that is overrun with crime in order to ensure that families can walk their neighborhoods without fear of becoming victims, that children can play outside without having to worry about drive-bys, that you're not going to have gang-riddled neighborhoods. Please explain to me why in the states that this has been done, and the cities like Washington, D.C., in cities like Memphis, the people have been incredibly grateful and happy that the Trump administration has come in and helped quash some of this violence. And even Miriam Bowser had to say the city is doing great. So explain to me, why would Democrats fight Trump coming in, the National Guard coming in order to clean up the streets? Is it because they enjoy the violence? Is it because they need the violence to keep people in check, to keep people voting for them? Is it because they promise to make streets safe and they never do, and so they need that as a campaign promise? I have no idea. But when they went to the point of telling military personnel to defy Donald Trump, they crossed a bridge too far. So these individuals we're talking about are Elisa Stotkin of Michigan, Mark Kelly of Arizona, Chris DeLuzio of Pennsylvania, Chrissy Houlihan of Pennsylvania, Maggie Goodlander of New Hampshire, and Jason Crow of Colorado. These people went out on the line and said that they needed, that military members needed to defy Trump's orders. Trump said exactly what it was. I called it treason. Donald Trump called it seditious behavior. Either one, the issues surrounding, or the penalty surrounding those acts, are going to be the same. And now Democrats are losing their mind because they understand that Donald Trump is calling for military tribunals and calling for penalties, including but not limited to what comes about as a result of treason. I don't know that I can go into too far detail as far as that goes, but you guys know what comes along with treason. I don't think YouTube would allow me to go into too much depth, but make sure you guys check it out. Now, that's the question. Do you guys agree with Donald Trump? Do you agree that calling for military personnel to defy orders is really and truly worthy of seditious activity, a charge of seditious activity, of these people going to prison at the very least? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. But remember, these orders have been done before, during January 6th, where people were told to stand down, that General Miley told people, do not take any orders from Donald Trump during this time. Comment below. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. Be blessed.
Okay, that's number one. This is number two.
Television show. I'm Josh Harmon. I'm a musician, content creator, and a sound effects artist.
What's up? Welcome back to Out of the Darkness. I am Q, and things are changing. I told you guys things are changing, and we are indeed winning. Every time I see, I don't care who it is. I don't care if they're Republican. I don't care if they're Democrat. If they are a dirty politician and they are being arrested and tried for fraud, I love it. As long as they're arrested and tried for any felonies or any crimes, I am excited and here for it. That is the only way we drain the swamp. So this latest one, I don't know if you guys heard about Sheila Sherfless McCormick. Now, she is a Democrat out of Florida, congresswoman. Now, this woman has stolen, she was indicted for stealing $5 million. $5 million out of the FEMA disaster relief fund in 2021. Now, that's absolutely sick if you think about it, right? It's sick to think that she was stealing from the very people that she was asking to elect her into office. She was taking this money and funneling it into several different accounts. So the way the story is told is that her family owned clinics, and they were taking this money and they were improperly billing FEMA for the money, and they were funneling this money through several different accounts and using their accountants and using their tax preparers to file illegal tax returns. And then they were taking this money and they were funding her campaign with it. So this woman was literally stealing from her constituents, from all of us. Okay, that FEMA money, the news is reporting it as FEMA funds. Let's cut it to the chase. Those are our dollars. Okay, the government has no money. The money comes from we, the people. So she was stealing money from the very people that she was trying to get to elect her, and she's now been caught. And it's absolutely fantastic because I do not believe that this woman would have been caught had it not been for Pam Bondi and had it not been for Donald Trump. How many of these people were being caught back then? Do you think this is the first one? Do you think this is the last one? Do you think this is the only one? Absolutely not. But it was absolutely egregious that during a time where people were legitimately suffering during COVID, that she felt that it was in her best interest or in the best interest of the people to take money that was designed to help the people to put her in office. This is how sick and twisted most of these people are. This is how narcissistic they actually can be. That the juice was worth the squeeze to steal from the people to get into office, because what the people of Florida really needed was not disaster relief funds. What the people in Florida really needed was not to get back to work. What the people in Florida needed, all they needed was her. Because as long as Sheila could get into office, then guess what? She was going to make everything better because she knows best. Democrats, in her mind, know what's best for the people. And sure enough, now she has been caught. She's looking at 53 years in prison. She had an entire network of people working together to funnel this money out and to shift this money into her own coffers. This is absolutely insane. I love the fact that Pam Bondi is going after this woman, and I hope and pray that she gets every last one of those 53 years and some. Let me know what you guys think about this. We are winning. We will.
Okay, we got two Q videos. This one's one image guy is oh wait, I'm gonna do this lady here is 3 minutes.
A little bit of advice here. What is being spoken about that list is going to be very G-rated. In the beginning of my awakening, I didn't want to believe this. I didn't want to see the truth in this. And I learned a very, very tough lesson in this. This is for entertainment purposes only. I dug a little too deep. I plunged myself into a darkness that took me over a year to dig myself out of. There's some videos that float around and people will share them. Videos of things being done to the innocent that will shatter you into a million pieces. And this took me a long time to get over. And I watched a 7-second clip. And they say that 9 of the 12 that researched what I saw 7 seconds of, it was hundreds of hours of it, did something to themselves. And everybody's always made jokes. And I hope that you guys, it's a certain female in the political world. But in the 7 seconds that I watched, I didn't know how to go on afterwards. And it took me almost a year to dig myself out of it. I collapsed in my kitchen right after I watched it. And my brother begged me to send it to him. I wouldn't send it to my worst enemy. So be very careful with what you're exposing yourself to. Be very careful digging down these rabbit holes. Remember, we're watching a movie and everything has to play out. Guard yourself, guard your energy. Your eyes and your ears are the window to your soul. Be very careful what you're watching and what you're listening to.
How was that one, you guys? That was pretty good. Three minutes on me.
Harvesters, only I'm not talking electric energy. I'm talking human energy, otherwise known as a loosh. You see, loosh is a relatively new term, and basically what it is energy generated by organic life, and one of the purest forms of that is through human activity. And well, these stadiums sure do generate a lot of human activity. And I'm not only talking about the form in physical activity, because we all know that exists to the nth degree in these stadiums, but I'm including emotional activity too, because in these stadiums, emotions can ride high and they can ride low, and that you can be happy and you can be angry. And you might think I'm a little crazy for thinking this, but why don't you take a look at this picture? On the left, we have Atlanta, Georgia, and the Mercedes-Benz Dome. And on the right, we have a motherboard. They look kind of similar, wouldn't you say? Now, I'm not one to believe in the simulation theory, but I'll tell you something I do fully believe in. I believe that once there were monstrous beings that walked this earth. Here's an example, because when you take a different perspective, you see exactly what this mountain was. This is the Garden of the Gods in Colorado. And if these enormous beings once upon a time existed, is there a chance that maybe they still do? You see, I first saw this video of what was captured next to the moon when I wasn't fully aware of the giant beings that once existed here. So I thought this was CGI or a hologram, but I'm not so sure now. I'm not so sure at all. In fact, what if, just what if, that we are on a tiny little section of something much, much, much larger? And these beings still exist outside of the firmament. And we're just living in their little energy source. And when they need a little boost to a certain section of their motherboard, well, they create positive energy or they create negative energy. You see, I've been thinking sports are fixed for a while now, but I used to think it was for money. Maybe it's something for a much, much, much different purpose. Maybe they're fixed so the right parts of the country or even the earth get the right boost of energy when they need it. But of course, this is all for entertainment purposes. I know that this city looks exactly like a motherboard and that the stadium is exactly like the motherboard main component just because it's coincidental. And I also know that no giant beings once existed here. It's just complete pareidolia. And that Loosh definitely doesn't exist. I'm just doing this for the views and the entertainment. You should know that by now, people. Entertainment only.
How was those two short ones? I thought those were good. Okay, the next short one will be let's listen to what's your lady? I don't know if you guys heard her yesterday.
Homeland Security. And it's wonderful to be with all of you today and give you an update of not just what work that President Trump is conducting across the country to make families and their communities safer, but also what this office in particular has focused on, the results that they have delivered, but then also what the state of Florida and the partnerships that they have brought to the federal government as far as incarcerating criminal illegal aliens and bringing them to justice. Today marks 9 months since President Trump has been in office, and since he began his work to restore American safety for our families that live here. What he has accomplished for the American people is nothing short of extraordinary. We appreciate what he has done to make us safe again, to secure our borders, and to make sure that he's protecting our people. Since January, the Department of Homeland Security has arrested over 480,000 criminal illegal aliens. 70% of those individuals have criminal charges against them or have been convicted of those criminal charges. Across the country, we're making communities safer so that families can thrive and they can prosper and they can enjoy the kind of freedom that this country was established to provide. Unfortunately, many times we see the news distorting the truth and not bringing the real facts of the stories to the American people. And that is one of the reasons why we're here today, is to make sure that we're focused on what this office has done, our HSI officers, our ICE officers, the criminals that they've taken off the streets here in this city and also this state, and what we can do to get many of these items like you see on the table in front of me out of our communities. You see in front of us illegal rifles, handguns. You see drugs that have been taken off of our streets that are saving the lives of Americans every single day. I want to speak directly to the American people today and remind them and recall the fact that we are focused on the worst of the worst, bringing these individuals to justice. We're not going to let individuals terrorize our streets anymore, and we're not going to let them make victims out of families that live in this country. I'll give you some examples of individuals that were brought to justice here in Sarasota and in this area. The first one I'll talk about is a convicted murderer whose name is Eric Carlos Artiles Ramos, an illegal alien who was from Cuba. He had a prior removal order in 2008, and now because of the work of this office, he is off the streets. He was also previously convicted of kidnapping and carjacking. We also have another individual, Oscar Alfredo Retena Marroquin, an illegal alien from El Salvador. He was convicted of sexual assault against a child and in 1995, and he was also arrested for DUI. He has been deported twice before, in 1999 and in 2019. Reentry after deportation, I'll remind all of you, is a felony. The next individual is Arturo Sanchez Morales. He's an illegal alien from Mexico. He was arrested for driving drunk, and he's already been deported once before. He re-entered, which is a felony, and was issued a final order of removal in 2016. He had previously been arrested for burglary as well, for possession of cocaine and larceny, and has convictions for multiple DUIs and lewd acts against a minor. And again, I'll talk about Leilis Ronaldo Benaro Zarin, who is an individual from Honduras who's been in this country illegally, and he has a conviction for domestic battery. He'd been deported twice before in 2011 and in 2017. These individuals are just a handful of people that have been in this country creating victims out of American citizens that now those families do no longer have to worry about. Not only have they been brought into and incarcerated, but they're going to be brought to justice and pay for the crimes that they've committed. Every single day, our law enforcement officers put their lives at risk to protect the American people. Every single day, they get up and they go do their jobs to make sure that American families can live the lives that they've dreamed of since they were young. The left's anti-cop rhetoric has led to 1,000% increase in violence against our law enforcement officers. We have to stop the rhetoric that is allowing individuals the cover that they want to perpetuate violence against those who enforce our laws. Last month, we had an individual open fire at an ICE facility, and we also saw victims from that attack that happened, not just against ICE agents, but also about detainees that were there at that facility. That individual, when he fired upon the building, created some victims. We lost 2 lives there. 3 individuals were hurt and 2 died later on after that event. The suspect had anti-ICE written on the ammunition and on his bullet casings, proving that he had targeted against individuals that were working to keep our streets safe. Criminals are now even placing bounties on our law enforcement officers. This last month, the Department of Homeland Security arrested a criminal illegal alien and a Latin Kings gang member who placed a bounty on our U.S. Border Patrol Chief Greg Bovino. Still, they keep pressing on, and we've seen as well individuals on TikTok and other apps making threats against our law enforcement officers, putting bounties out on their head, and we will bring all of those individuals to justice. We will continue to bring murderers and rapists, those who perpetuate violence, pedophiles, gang members in our communities. We will go after them, bring them to justice, and we will save lives. The American people see this, and they see that President Trump is focused on making sure that our streets are safe and that our families have opportunities to raise their children in safe communities. In fact, recent polls have shown that 54% of Americans want illegals to be brought into justice, and they want to deport those who are in this country illegally. But 78% of Americans want these criminal illegal aliens brought to justice. That's because the American people understand the benefits of having law and order again. They understand the benefit of having a leader that focuses on making sure that we are a nation of borders, but we're a nation of laws, and those laws are enforced.
Have a good night.
To the brave men and women of ICE and HSI and the law enforcement that are partnering with us, thank you. Thank you for all that you do to protect our country. Thank you for risking your lives for the American people and being willing to go out and stand for what is right, stand for law and order. And the American people are extremely grateful for that. To everyone else out there, I would ask you to please thank a law enforcement officer if you see them today. Cook them a meal for their family, support them, give them a word of encouragement. It's been 9 months since President Trump has been in office, and he's made an incredible difference for the American people. Let's make sure that those individuals who go out every single day and keep our streets safe, that they get the opportunity to be thanked for that as well. And with that, I will open it up for any questions that you may have. Yes.
Okay, that was an important one. We got our favorite senator.
Madam President, is one of my colleagues from my office, Mr. Nick Ayers. Every time I look at or read an article about the one big beautiful bill, I am shocked, though that sounds pejorative. Maybe impressed would be a better word, at its breadth. is such an expansive piece of legislation. On the airplane flying back from our last break, I sat down with some of my notes and just made a quick list off the top of my head of some of the things that we did in the One Big Beautiful Bill. And I hate to read to people, but I'll just read you from my notes. And I won't even read all of them. But this is what we did in the One Big Beautiful Bill. We extended the 2017 tax cuts. We saved $1.3 trillion for the American people. We made them permanent. We cut taxes on tips. We cut taxes on overtime. We cut taxes on Social Security. We provided deductions for car loans. We increased the standard deduction. We continued the 20% income deduction for LLCs. We repealed the IRS reporting requirements for gig workers. Nobody ever talks about that. That was huge. We passed school choice tax credits. First time Congress has ever done something like that. We enhanced 529 education savings accounts. We provided full expensing for research and development. I mean, I could keep going here. We reformed Medicaid. We ended federal payments for abortion and gender surgery and sex change operations through Medicaid. I could go on for 20 more minutes. It's just an extraordinary piece of legislation. My only regret with respect to the bill is that we did it without Democratic votes. We did it with all Republican votes. I wish that hadn't been the case. I wish we had been able to convince some of our Democratic colleagues to join with us. Well, the obvious question when I make that statement is, how'd you do that? How'd you get past the filibuster? Take 60 votes. You don't have to be an astrophysicist to know that about the United States Senate. Well, as you know, Madam President, we did it through reconciliation. Under reconciliation, only a majority vote is required. 60 votes aren't required. You can do it with a majority vote. That's how we passed One Big Beautiful Bill. That's how President Biden passed much of his legislation. Reconciliation, as we know, is a creature of the Budget Control Act. I think of reconciliation as sort of a mini budget. Now that's a gross exaggeration and oversimplification, but I think of it as a mini budget. Could we ask for order, Madam President?
I ask the senators to please take the conversations off the chamber floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. I think of reconciliation as sort of a mini budget. Now, that's an oversimplification and exaggeration, but and we can't do everything in reconciliation, but we can do a lot. We can do a lot. We passed the reconciliation bill on July 1, about 5 months ago. And something that even members of the media are not aware of is we have the authority before the midterm elections to do 2 more reconciliation bills. The first one that we did, we can do 2 more. The first of 3 potential reconciliation bills we passed 5 months ago. You know, you can do a lot in 5 months. 5 months around here is a long time ago. In 5 months, you can learn a language. You have to work at it every day. In 5 months, you can learn how to play a musical instrument. In 5 months, you can write a book. In 5 months, you can start a small business. In 5 months, during World War II, the U.S. defeated the Japanese in the Guadalcanal invasion. And in 5 months, the Duke of Wellington defeated Napoleon after he escaped from Elba. In 5 months, a baby goes from gurgling and crying to saying mama and dada. 5 months is a long time. How have we used that 5 months? Now, I'm not putting anybody down. I want to say that. I'm not criticizing any of my colleagues. I love my colleagues. I don't hate anybody. I love every one of my colleagues. And I'm labor. I'm not management. But one of the reasons I came to the floor, Madam President, is to suggest to all of my colleagues, both my Democratic friends and my Republican friends, that time is wasting. The president has been pounding us. He's been criticizing us like we stole Christmas, like we stole Thanksgiving, for not getting rid of the filibuster. Why does he want to get rid of the filibuster? Because he thinks we can pass a bill with 51 votes. We can already pass a bill with 51 votes. We just did it with the one big beautiful bill. And we can do 2 more. So why have we sat around for 5 months and not started on the second reconciliation bill? I just don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, in my opinion, and really, I'm just making an observation. To me, it's a 12-piece bucket of stupid.
Pretty good speech,
not to do another reconciliation bill and to waste 5 months before we even start on a second reconciliation bill, assuming that we get started tomorrow. I mean, humans are supposed to have evolved as a species. Why would we not do a second reconciliation bill? Think of what we could do. I mean, moms and dads all across America tonight are going to lie down to sleep, and they won't be able to. What are they worried about? Well, they're worried about the cost of housing, for one thing. They're worried about the cost of home insurance. They're worried about the cost of flood insurance. They're worried about the cost of health insurance. We all know that. They're worried about the cost of living. Now, I think President Trump's done a good job on inflation. At one point under President Biden, we experienced 9% inflation. We got it down to 3%. And I think that's extraordinary. But the American people don't understand, nor can they be expected to understand because they're too busy earning and living. They don't know the difference between deflation and disinflation. What we've experienced is disinflation. When we went from 9% to 3%, all that meant was that prices were going up at 9%. Now they're only going up at 3%. They're still going up. What the American people are interested in is deflation. Getting the high prices that we have as a result of the policies of President Biden's administration, getting those prices down, not stopping them from growing less quickly, getting them down. And the American people are worried about it. And again, I applaud President Trump and his economic team for doing as well as they have. But we've got more work to do. In reconciliation, assuming it could survive the parameters of the Budget Control Act, we could address rules and regulations. We spend almost $2 trillion a year. I say we, the business community spends almost $2 trillion a year complying with federal rules and regulations. They pass that cost on. Why do you think goods and services cost more today? In large part, in substantial part, it's a result of rules and regulations. Through a reconciliation bill, we could pass measures to get the cost of those goods and services down and actually reduce those prices by getting a little government off the backs of business people. We could do all those things through reconciliation. And so the first reason I came to the floor tonight is to say to my colleagues, Pretty please. With sugar on top. I'll even add a cherry. I'll even throw in a coupon for a personal pan pizza. Please, let's do another reconciliation bill. And when I say we, I'm saying the Republican majority. Let's invite our Democratic colleagues to join with us. And I hope after inviting them, I sincerely hope they'll take us up on it. But if they don't, and they don't have to, it's a free country, it only takes a majority to pass the reconciliation bill. And after we do the second one, we can do a third one before the midterms. If we do not take advantage of this opportunity to lower the cost of living for the American people, for reconciliation, when we only need 51 votes to do it, it's legislative malpractice. It's legislative malpractice. It is dumb as a bowl of noodles. So that's my plea to my colleagues tonight. I'm not saying we've done nothing for 5 months. We've done a lot of other things for 5 months. But we haven't done anything to lower the cost of living for the American people. And we can't look back. We lost 5 months, but we should get started tomorrow.
Okay, that's a good speech. Okay, we got a new person in here, you guys. We got Zell. Welcome. I go on at 5 every day. It's been since the beginning, and I don't know if I remember you if you've been following, but appreciate your support. Just be respectful. Thank you. So the next one is another good one. But I'm going to show something here. Where is it? Anybody understand the depth clock? I don't understand this. Anybody else? You're right. You're in. I have no clue what this step clock means, you guys. What a mess on the step clock. Next one's going to be, I'm not sure. I'll stop it if you guys want me to. It's 10 minutes. I'm not sure if we played it.
Every generation gets one moment. One moment when the future stops
You guys
knocking
remember this
politely
one?
and instead kicks the door wide open for the XRP army. That moment.
This is for people
Is
to
now.
understand this.
Because in the span of 10 days, two of the most powerful monetary forces on earth collide with math, history, and destiny. On November 22nd, the world's banking system performs a once-in-history hard cutover. Legacy rails to ISO 20022 digital messaging. Not a beta test. Not optional. A single-day global switchover. At most, 4 days later, the Clarity Act is projected to be signed into law. A law that does something Washington hasn't done in 90 years. It ends Wall Street's
What do
ability
you guys
to
think so
manipulate
far?
digital assets with wash trading,
Continue.
secrecy, and offshore games. In just 1 week, the rails become digital, the law becomes transparent, and the money becomes honest. Into this moment, let's look at three giants: Franklin Templeton, Bitwise, 21 shares, together managing over $1.6 trillion. Canary Capital, tiny by comparison, launched the first XRP spot ETF, and in 3 days, it did 105 million in volume. Now imagine what happens when these big three, with over 5,000 times more assets, step onto the field.
And what do you think?
Let's be conservative. Let's say Franklin, Bitwise, and 21 shares don't do 1,000 times more. Not 100 times more. Not even 50. Just 10 times the volume Canary did in its first 3 days. That's about $1 billion in XRP trading. Even at 25% net inflows, that means about 119 million XRP must be purchased within 72 hours.
You guys want me
But
to
here's
stop
the
it?
spine-tingling twist. The majority of XRP is locked, staked, escrowed, institutionally held, or never moving. Best estimates are 4 billion.
I wasn't sure about that one. All right, we got
is coming, and he's trying
4
to
minutes.
get out of Dodge and space while he
1
still
minute.
can. Now, this is a very good sign to me. I know there's been a lot of concern about the way this whole situation has been handled by the Justice Department, Kash Patel, even Trump. Some of his rhetoric around the Epstein files has been very concerning and raises a lot of eyebrows. And there's a lot of people that think that Pam Bondi is going to redact a bunch of things and we're not going to get anything really materially significant because they're going to deflect and say it's all under an active investigation and we can't produce these records because it would interfere with the ongoing investigations. However, at least one Democrat seems to think that something is about to happen, and that person is none other than Larry Summers. Larry Summers, who was the Treasury Secretary under Bill Clinton, the top economic advisor to Obama, a very, very prominent Democrat figure. And this is what happened yesterday at the Harvard Kennedy School.
Some of you will have seen my statement of regret, expressing my shame with respect to what I did in communication with Mr. Epstein, and that I've said that I'm going to step back from public activities.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you just heard Larry Summers, a prominent Democrat that was part of the Obama and Clinton administration, resigned from Harvard, saying that he deeply regrets and feels ashamed about his actions regarding Jeffrey Epstein. So he announced that he would step aside from his teaching duties at Harvard University while the school investigates his ties to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Larry Summers also announced that he's going to be stepping down as one of the board members of OpenAI, which is the company behind ChatGPT, which he's been a board member since November 2023. In announcing his departure, he said, "I was deeply ashamed of my actions and recognize the pain that they have caused." Now, the media also says they're going to be kicking Summers to the curb. The New York Times said it does not intend to renew Summers' contract as a contributing writer for the opinion section. And by the way, the New York Times has their own problems since one of their reporters was seen in the emails communicating with Epstein about writing a hit piece about Trump and tipped off Epstein about a potential investigation. But that's besides the point. Clearly, they're trying to disassociate from Summers and save face. But Summers is also no longer a paid contributor to Bloomberg. So everybody under the sun is getting out of Dodge and disassociating themselves from Larry Summers. Now, here's the real kicker, and I want you guys to pay very close attention. None of this is new information. That Larry Summers had a close relationship with Epstein, that he was on the flight logs, that he went to the island, that Epstein contributed millions of dollars to Harvard during his tenure. All of that's been publicly available information for years. However, nobody felt the need to disassociate themselves from Summers. He didn't feel the need to step down from Harvard or OpenAI or any of these institutions. Only now that the emails have been released and it's become a big public spectacle, and only after the DOJ announced that they were going to be personally looking into Summers' association with Epstein, did all this start to happen. Just last week, the New York Times, Bloomberg, Harvard, OpenAI, they were all okay with having a known Jeffrey Epstein associate and potential pedophile on their board as the director, as a contributor. They were all A-okay with it until now. All of a sudden, once the DOJ and Trump announce that they're going to be looking into Summers and seeing how far the rabbit hole goes, do they all duck and run for cover? That should be a very good signal to everybody out there that's worried that nothing's going to happen. Clearly, they know that something is going down very soon. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to know what you guys think about this down in the comment section.
Okay, the latest one on Nick. I got the guy on Telegram. It's 4 minutes, and I got a few bidding videos and one cash.
And I figured I might as well just tell you like my opinion. But one thing I do know is specifically Washington and its quadrants represent the jurisdictional mechanisms of law that are inside the United States. Okay? That's why it's the people's house, stuff like that. Okay? So I want to explain the East Wing because I see all this garbage and the propaganda. First of all, stop watching the news. That is entertainment.
That old one? Okay.
Like WWE wrestling. It's entertainment. Stop watching the news. It's crap. They are keeping the public dumb at bay. That's literally what they are. They're not good for anything else. They don't do anything else. Okay? So, second, the East Wing. Why is the East Wing getting demolished? The East Wing is getting demolished because they have to make room and the jurisdiction has changed. And that building, so they're going on about how big the building is and blah, 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 blah. No. The ballroom is actually the place where the 1st Infantry Division has to have formation when they return to the White House, the People's House. The People's House is an equity law, and that's where the 1st Infantry Division has to be stationed, okay? Returning the People's House to the military, okay? There is if you look on the other side, if you look at Google Maps, there's actually behind the executive office, there's a monument to the 1st Infantry Division, and there's actually a flower garden with this red 1 in the middle of it. Because the big red 1, the big red American 1 has to have jurisdiction over the White House grounds. Okay? So that's why they're demolishing the East Wing and they're putting in this grand ballroom This grand ballroom is so the 1st Infantry Division can have formation inside that space. And it's also because more than likely the Treasury building that's on the White House grounds is going to be where the 1st Infantry Division is housed. And they're going to move the Treasury to the new remodeled Federal Reserve building. Since the Federal Reserve has been put inside Treasury, Treasury will occupy the space of the Federal Reserve building, and the Federal Reserve will be under or underneath the U.S. Treasury at the new Treasury building, which is between Lincoln, the Lincoln Memorial, and the White House. Okay, so that's why the ballroom is being put in, because the East is no longer separated by a corridor. The equity has returned to the people, and when equity returns to the people, the ballroom has to be attached to the White House because that's where the 1st Infantry Division is. Okay? So that's what's going on. And that's why they have to demolish it, because it has to represent how our law is set up. Secondly, if you look in the ellipse down below of the White House, there's actually like a road that kind of goes up and then stops. There's another road. Those are the separate law jurisdictions of the South Lawn that are coming out of the Organization of American States on the farthest south, and the Constitutional Hall, which is where the Daughters of the American Revolution is, and then the Red Cross building, where the veterans basically in the Red Cross. Okay, so or the Armed Forces of the United States. Red Cross occupied that circle, which is called the ellipse. So, but those are going to start building out. They'll probably put a monument there or something there to remember, for us to remember that that's what goes there and that's why it's there, because that's how this works. Everything is a representation, a symbolic representation. None of this stuff is random. Okay, so I hope that explains it. God bless and Godspeed.
Oh, we haven't heard him. I found that I don't know if you guys can see it. I'll bring it up. Hold on.
Door wide open for the XRP Army. That moment is now, because in the span of 10 days, two of the most powerful monetary forces on earth collide with math, history, and destiny. On November 22nd, the world.
Chico. Chico. Yep, I got it, guys. I'm going to play it right now. Hold on. Here we go. We got it. Extra. There you go. Is that okay, you guys? I sent it to Kay so she can put it in chat. They got 10,000 followers in 1 hour, you guys.
Yeah.
Mike, there's a fire somewhere in the subway. They were saying.
Yeah, it's the very nice. Yeah. Have an offer now. Okay.
What do you guys want me to do? Move on?
Like a shot of them coming down. Yeah.
All right, moving on. Four minutes.
Bit server to hide behind. James Comer just promised the full ban in Navarro, cuff and stuff, if Bill and Hillary keep ghosting those Epstein subpoenas. Meanwhile, Jazzy Jasmine, she tried to light Republicans on fire with her gotcha Epstein donors list, only to have it
Who are you
spectacularly
talking
explode
about?
right in her face. She's
You
now
know
quieter than
who?
a Democrat on
Network?
Hunter's laptop. And something that made me a little irritated, a small group of Republicans tanked their chance to censure Plaskett, all to protect Corey Mills. Many Republicans now furious and say they're going to attempt to throw their own guy under the bus. As always, like the video and subscribe if you're new here. So while Epstein's child trafficking empire detonates across America, the Clintons, who jetted on the Lolita Express just 26 times and partied with Epstein on the island, have gone darker than Hillary's 2016 election night meltdown. Zero statements, zero outrage, total radio silence from the Clinton Crime Foundation. But the party's over. After Bill and Hillary ghosted Congress like common criminals, Oversight Chairman James Comer just dropped the hammer. Subpoenas for both Clintons with a brutal warning. Show up or pack a toothbrush, because you're going the Bannon Navarro route.
Bill and Hillary Clinton, if they continue to duck you, will you take them to court? Will you try to enforce a subpoena? Will you go the Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro route?
100%. We're going to go that route. We expect to hear from Bill and Hillary Clinton. Look, Donald Trump's answered questions for years about Jeffrey Epstein. Every day he gets asked questions about Epstein and he answers them in front of the American people. But the Clintons have never responded. They're the one in this investigation that's never had to answer questions in front of a credible reporter, and they've never certainly answered questions from attorneys or members of Congress. So we expect the Clintons to come in, or I expect the Clintons to be met with the same fate that Bannon and Navarro were met with when the Democrats were in control.
And I'm sure, absolutely sure, Democrats will be standing shoulder to shoulder with Comer on this one. I mean, they practically wrote the rule book. After all, it was Adam Schiff who said this in 2022. Prosecution of those who refuse to comply with a lawful subpoena is vital to ensuring congressional oversight has teeth. Otherwise, Congress cannot function as the founders intended. The balance of power becomes unbalanced, and a corrupt executive can't be held to account. So the million-dollar question now is, what's the shorter sentence for the Clintons? Refusing to comply with the subpoena or actually admitting what they've done? And while Democrats pretend to be the sudden champions of accountability, here comes Eric Swalwell. Yeah, the guy who couldn't even outsmart a Chinese spy, now trying to play Capitol Hill tough guy. Watch him attempt to scare Kristi Noem and Tom Homan like he's running some kind of congressional mafia. Take a look.
And Kristi Noem and Tom Homan, you should familiarize yourself with the four corners of this room. Kristi Noem and Tom Homan, get to know that witness chair. You're going to be parked in it for a long time. You're going to have a lot of questions under oath with the subpoena power. And I hope what you're doing is clean and can withstand the scrutiny that everyone on this side of the aisle is going to bring. You think we won't do it. You think you're invincible. You're wrong. Accountability is coming. You've got about a year, and I yield back.
Okay, that's one there. I got a second one. Yeah, we need you, Lisa. Kay's the only one I got. Where is that one? Chico. Okay, this one's 7 minutes, and then we'll get to pity videos next. Yeah, I'm whining, hey. Thanks, Lisa, everybody.
Herself into mental pretzels on live television, trying to justify her Epstein interactions. Watch this plea where she begs everybody to just move on and warns we must be careful when criticizing people who had involvement with Epstein. Translation, that rule only applies when a Democrat is involved.
What?
I'm just looking forward. I'm moving forward. And I think that that's what we as American people should do, is move forward. If individuals are not involved in illegal activity, extending his criminal enterprise or his financial enterprise or all of those things, I think that we need to look at what people are doing moving forward.
Wait, let me just better understand that. What is that point? Because at the time he was a known sex offender and it had been detailed all the sexual abuse.
There are a lot of people who have done a lot of crimes. And as a prosecutor, you get information from people where you can.
So just to be clear, you can take donations and engage with a sex offender as long as he's giving you dirt against your political opponents. Got it. Write that down. And in this whole Epstein saga, CNN suddenly trying to win back some credibility. Watch Caitlin Collins actually hold Hakeem Jeffries' feet to the fire over an email involving the House Minority Leader and Epstein. This is impressive. It doesn't happen often, so don't blink.
You heard Stacey Plaskett there. She was arguing her texts with Jeffrey Epstein were not illegal, but in your view, were they appropriate?
Well, Stacey Plaskett is not accused of violating any House rule, any law, any statute, and she's clearly and unequivocally denounced Jeffrey Epstein.
But do you think it was appropriate for her to be texting with Jeffrey Epstein 11 years after he pleaded guilty?
I mean, I have not had a conversation with Stacey Plaskett to discuss this issue because we've been focused today on making sure that there was a decisive vote as it related to the Epstein files.
Do you plan to talk to her about it?
I think that we successfully defeated a resolution that lacked any basis, was not credible, and was being brought by an individual who was trying to weaponize this issue to reinvigorate his own failed gubernatorial campaign in South Carolina. It was rejected on a bipartisan basis on the floor today. That's the end of the story.
Yeah, I was just asking if you personally believe messaging with Jeffrey Epstein, who is at that point a registered sex offender, is appropriate for a member of the House Democratic Caucus.
That's the third time you've asked me this question, and I'm going to give you the same exact answer. Our focus today is on making sure that the Jeffrey Epstein files were released. If you want to have a conversation with Stacey Plaskett about it, I'm sure she'd be willing to talk to you.
Holy Hannah, that was painful. His final answer was basically, I will not be answering questions today. I mean, maybe he should file his own resolution to ban follow-up questions. Now, at that point, Caitlin Collins, she decided to twist that knife a little deeper and turn the focus onto Jeffries himself. Watch his cadence while he's answering this. He slows down to about half speed, like he's buffering in real time, trying to make sure not a single syllable accidentally admits something.
Well, let me ask you about you, because the White House has been highlighting an email that I'm sure you've seen today that Jeffrey Epstein got in 2013. They say it shows you were soliciting money and dinner from an Epstein. The email was not sent from you. It was sent from a political consulting firm called Dynamic SRG that says, we are thrilled to announce we are working with Congressman Hakeem Jeffries. Shoot us an email or give us a call if you would like to get involved. What's your response? Do you recall that email being sent to Jeffrey Epstein from that team?
Yeah, of course, I have no recollection of the email. I've never had a conversation with him, never met him, know nothing about him other than the extreme things that he's been convicted of doing. And that's why, I'm just strongly supportive of the effort.
Of course, he has no recollection of the email. They never, ever do. And Democrats, they better be careful what they wish for, because something tells me Washington is about to get real entertaining as these files roll out. I mean, we're going to see some politicians spinning, stuttering, probably going to see a little bit of memory loss and backpedaling like they're trying out for Cirque du Soleil reboot. And nowhere was that panic more obvious than on CNN. Scott Jennings pointed out the obvious, right? If there was anything on Trump and the Epstein files, it would have already been leaked, tweeted, published, and stapled to every lamppost in America. But apparently stating basic logic now counts as racist. Yeah. Watch how fast this panel drags the conversation right off a cliff.
Scott, you keep saying, well, he didn't do anything. There's no indication of criminality. If that's true, he should be elated that we're putting these things out.
It's not if that's true. It is true. Can you name any evidence?
I would like to see the evidence. What I'm saying is,
you think after 10 years of public life,
Hey,
you wouldn't know it already?
no, I don't. That's exactly the point.
Oh my goodness.
Scott,
this
Scott,
is an IQ test. Don't fail it. Come on, man.
Scott,
10 years Donald Trump has been in public
that's
life.
embarrassing.
Come on.
For
it is an IQ test. I mean, for 10 years, we haven't heard any names. So you really think that no one's involved?
No, obviously, Larry Summers was involved. Stacey Plaskett was involved. There's all kinds of people involved with Jeffrey Epstein.
If someone was
just real quick, I just want to bring it back to something that just happened. I feel like I just heard Scott call into question this black man's intelligence with the IQ test.
That's what
I feel like I heard that, and so I just
You're
want
ridiculous.
to say something. This is what
It's
what it
ridiculous.
sounded like.
You want to make it
And
racial?
so-
Go ahead, but it's ridiculous.
Well, I mean, I think that.
By the way,
there-
we know each
there
other
is
and
a-
we're friends. I know this man.
I
He's a
would-
smart guy,
I
and
would
we're having a
love-
debate.
I would
We're having a
love to
debate.
finish
Don't
what
don't
I'm
don't make it
saying
into so we don't even
because
know each other, but we do.
This actually relates back to the topic that we're having, Scott. There is a you're sitting here with so much confidence without seeing all of the documents that Donald Trump is innocent. There is a presumption of guilt that a black man walks around the United States with, that I have been watching Donald Trump navigate this situation with the presumption of innocence that is never afforded to us.
Yeah, the classic move. When you can't win on facts, just go ahead and pull the race card like it's an emergency eject button. I mean, and did you catch it? Abby Phillip, who is also Black, she agreed with Scott that this was an IQ test about the argument, not the man. But Joshua Dossie just blew right past that inconvenient detail and still managed to twist it into a racism accusation. These people are literally incapable of speaking outside their own narrative bubble. And if reality doesn't fit their script, they'll just accuse someone of racism and call it a day, which is what we're going to do. Up next, Zohran Mamdani is about to blow.
Okay, that's our TikTok lady. Now we're going to do Vinny videos. I got one duck video. I got 4 good ones. I got 4 good ones. One pass, 2 Vinny, and
What's up, guys? Spenny. I know there's a lot going on in the world right now, but may I humbly suggest that you pay attention to this one critical detail that we learned this week about the world's foremost child sex trafficker and pedophile and predator, Jeffrey Epstein. Here, proudly posing in his last known photograph in an IDF sweatshirt. Israeli Defense Forces. A little on the nose there, Jeffrey. I think he's trying to tell us something. Could it be that Jeffrey Epstein is a spy on behalf of Israel?
On this one.
Yes. Was Jeffrey Epstein working in order to entrap the world's most powerful princelings and prime ministers with CIA and our intelligence agencies here in America? Yes. Yes, that's very, very true. That's been all but confirmed now. Not just because of fascinating reporting like this. Israeli spies stayed for weeks at Jeffrey Epstein's apartment along with the Israeli prime minister. Jeffrey Epstein helped broker Israeli security agreements with Mongolia and with Syria and with Russia and with Coeur d'Alene. All of these are various countries. I know the people that actually do this for our nation. These are private citizens that go to other nations and negotiate on behalf of America. It's just cleaner that way. But they're agents of our country, and they're negotiating on behalf of our government. Jeffrey Epstein was doing this on behalf of Israel, and now, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to learn so much more. Because the Senate has passed the Epstein Files bill and sent it directly to President Trump's desk. President Trump says he's going to sign it. This would require the DOJ to release an enormous amount of Jeffrey Epstein evidence, of course, that they have been hoarding, lying to us, telling us that 300 gigabytes of data and physical evidence, just nothing bad in there.
Lori, are you on Telegram? What do you want? Send me your channel, Telegram.
Just a bunch of porn, apparently, that Jeffrey Epstein made himself, sex trafficking thousands and thousands of women to himself alone. There's no blackmail evidence. There's no incriminating client lists. And we didn't uncover any evidence of uncharged third parties, the DOJ famously said in this unsigned memo that said he also killed himself. Nice little tight button-up job there. That didn't work out. And that actually backfired. Probably one of the worst political backfires I've seen in my life. They had no client list, died by suicide. Well, first off, there's obviously a client list, and he obviously blackmailed people. Here's an article from 2 years ago. Jeffrey Epstein blackmails Bill Gates over extramarital affair that destroyed Bill Gates's marriage. Here's a piece of evidence from the Epstein files that have been released thus far showing that Jeffrey Epstein was blackmailing Trump. Because he had all this information on Trump? No, just by association, according to this email with Michael Wolff.
Chico.
Jeffrey Epstein was a total monster, and that's by design. So who exactly designed that? Was this the op that they were running? Was the op that we are going to make Jeffrey Epstein such a monster? We're going to allow him to be a pedophile. We're going to allow him to run these rings in order to entrap the world's most powerful leaders, guilt by association. This is wild. During the 2016 election, Michael Wolff was brainstorming with child sex offender on how to invent leverage against Trump. This email is the most damning thing I've seen. they're saying that effectively just because Trump knew you and you're such a pederast monster, sex offender, that you could really generate a debt if he's ever asked questions about you, right? Now, this would be very powerful. Is it the feature or the bug that Jeffrey Epstein was a pedo who allowed him to remain uncharged in America for these crimes? Well, we know that Alex Acosta was told that Jeffrey Epstein belonged to Intel, and now Republican leaders have proven that to be correct. Speaker Johnson plans to protect perverts who went to Rape Island from embarrassment. Do not let the Senate add an amendment to avoid disclosing those rich and powerful men who evade justice. Innocent persons. Mike Johnson saying innocent persons. Mike Johnson wants to protect pedophiles.
No, he's
It
all
is
right.
amazing, ladies and gentlemen,
He
who are
looks
the
like the
innocent persons that are
animal
there,
in the backyard.
according to Mike Johnson. Oh, man. Our intel agencies. That's who. He straight up says it.
Hi, I'm JT, and I made Result Hunter, the search engine for conservatives. Let me just tell you what it does. First of all, big
security concerns, okay?
Halfway,
The discharge
guys,
requires the Attorney General to release within 30 days, quote, classified information to the maximum extent possible. This ignores the principle that declassification should always rest, and always has rested, with the agency that originated the intelligence. Why? So that they can protect their critical sources and methods. It is incredibly dangerous to demand that officials or employees of the DOJ declassify materials that originated in other agencies and intelligence agencies. I could go on. I won't be here all morning, but there's a lot of problems. There's also a lot of legal scholars, and I'm among them, who are concerned that that you've got problems with grand jury secrecy.
Whenever the government doesn't want you to know what they're actually doing, they claim sources and methods. They claim that you would put national security at risk. We've seen this again and again and again and again with every single lie.
He's a deer or an animal out back.
Now, these lies are being exposed. So intel agencies were involved with Epstein. Thanks for telling us, Mike. Mike Johnson says that releasing the Epstein files without redactions could pose a national security risk. Speaker Johnson says he's deeply disappointed that the Senate approved the Epstein bill without making any changes in order to protect national security. The Epstein file bill does grant Pam Bondi the authority to withhold or redact any material that could endanger national security or jeopardize federal investigation. So wait a second. Why is Jeffrey Epstein so involved in our national security, in our spook and spy agencies? Thomas Massey says the effort to stop the release of the Epstein files due to Jeffrey Epstein's close ties to our own intelligence agencies and Israel's intelligence agencies. Speaker Johnson says the Epstein disclosures will damage national security. Again, I ask, which nation and why was child trafficking ring being utilized for national security? Obviously. You know, Tucker Carlson asking some great questions here about like the handling of these Epstein files that have clearly backfired, right? Like you can't, you can only gaslight and lie to people for so long. I don't know why it falls to the Republicans to have to, why we're so dumb. I mean, this is like it's an amazing tactic that Democrats used here. It is. We should have done this to the Democrats when Joe Biden was in power. Why didn't we do this? It's Democrats who so far have been implicated in all this. Hakeem Jeffries, Stacey Plaskett, Bill Clinton, Alan Dershowitz, Larry Summers. Like, these are the people who are implicated. Like, but it's like Mike, all this stuff's hanging on Mike Johnson. You know what else is dangerous, Mike? Allowing pedophiles to rape or exploit children and letting them run free in the name of national security. National security. I mean, that's unbelievable. Epstein files and disclosures must be limited in order to make sure we don't do permanent damage to the political system. Got it. Now I get it, says Sean Ryan. You're protecting us from a national security risk. Well, shoot, Mike. Why didn't you just say that in the first place? Thanks for looking out for us, Mike. You're the best. It's not going to work, man. It's not going to work. Epstein survivors are saying they don't care if their names are redacted. Just release it as is. They want the predators to be exposed. And Thomas Massey now from the House floor saying, if this bill is successful, you will know it when rich men in handcuffs being perp walked into jail. I'm sorry if one of your billionaire donors is going to get embarrassed because he went to Rape Island. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been asking the questions for a long time. Seems like we're about to get the answers. Jeffrey Epstein working for Mossad, CIA, all the above, MI6, who knows? Who knows? But we were told about this a long time ago by some very, very smart people, and it's worth re-upping. Tim Burchett telling us exactly how this Jeffrey Epstein operation works, exactly how the intel agencies used Jeffrey Epstein to do this. Here you go. And by the way, we were right. It's like 2-year-old clip, aged like fine wine. Congressman, you represent the state of Tennessee. Marsha Blackburn has been completely blackballed in the Senate for asking for these flight logs to be released and for this client list to be released. It seems like now you are fighting with her in the House. Why the protection mechanism? And more importantly, you mentioned recently in an interview that there may be some members of Congress who are personally compromised by this, and they don't want the truth to get out. Can you expound on that?
Yeah, 100%. You got powerful people, and they write the big checks. Well, let's be honest. And powerful people in this country, they write the big checks. And they, they're the ones out on the tarmac when the president comes and visits, and whichever party they're in. They always either out on the tarmac or in the private room. They're the ones that write the big checks. They don't care who's in. They hate this country. They hate what we're about, but they love their portfolios and they love their money more than they do anything else. And they protect it, and they protect the people that do that. And by doing so, the old honeypot, the Russians do that, and I'm sure members of Congress have been caught up. Why in the world would good conservatives vote for crazy stuff like what we've been seeing out of Congress? It's how it works. You're visiting, you're out of the country or out of town, or you're in a motel or bar in D.C., and whatever you're into, women or men or whatever, comes up and they're very attractive and they're laughing at your jokes and you're buying them a drink. Next thing you know, you're in the motel room with them naked. And next thing you know, you're about to make a key vote. And what happens? Some well-dressed person comes up and whispers in your ear, "Hey man, there's tapes out on you. Were you in a motel room on whatever with whoever?" And then you're like, "Uh-oh," and said, "You really ought not be voting for this thing." I mean, and what do? It's human nature. And, no man or no woman actually is an island, and they know what to get at. If it's women, drugs, booze, it'll find you in D.C. and in most elected offices. And that's what people of power and influence do. And it's just, I've been in this game my whole life. I spent 16 years in the state legislature in Tennessee and 8 years as a county mayor. And now I'm in my 5th year of Congress. But it's just, the stakes are higher, but the game is still the same.
Okay, that's number one. We got cast video here. Where's cast one at?
Impacts is an economic slowdown in the hardest hit neighborhoods.
So after 60 days of digging in its heels, the sanctuary of Chicago has become a total war zone where there's combat between ICE agents and rioters in neighborhoods and on people's front lawn, where federal agents are forced to go find fugitives as Chicago's leaders, protect these same criminals from deportation by hiding them from the federal government, and when these people get arrested, releasing them from jail as soon as possible.
And this comes just a day after U.S. District Judge Sarah Ellis essentially extended that temporary restraining order. Agents are restricted from using munitions like gas and pepper balls unless threatened, and they're required to give 2 warnings before deploying crowd control weapons.
We are in our communities being terrorized by ICE and Border Patrol. They are tear gassing neighborhoods for fun.
Those people don't know their community, or even worse, they don't care about their community. And what I will say, we do care about our community, and we make it our personal responsibility to make this community and our nation safe. That's our personal responsibility.
I guarantee you, if you have another 6 months of this, you'll see a lot of businesses close.
Inside La Providencia grocery store, Humberto Franco shows me images from a security camera showing his employee, Amari, chased and detained by federal agents 2 weeks ago. Franco says ICE and Border Patrol raids have led to less foot traffic.
We're about 30%.
DHS Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs Tricia McLaughlin wrote, this injunction is an extreme act by an activist judge that risks the lives and livelihoods of law enforcement officers.
Back up.
I'm just recording. Do you have a warrant? You need a warrant.
So there's something weird about Chicago. We've got sanctuary cities, but then we've got this place where hordes of rioters follow federal agents around all day long and get right in their faces and block them with their vehicles. Which is stupid, because if these people cared about the folks being arrested, they wouldn't show up and add danger to these situations, creating a war zone-like climate so disruptive normal people can't live in this city anymore, which business owners say could tank the economy even more, which will in turn just force out more people who don't want to be around any of this nonsense, causing a mass exodus, which is what happens when a city undergoes radicalization. And what most people don't know is this perfectly explains how you can have Brandon Johnson in charge of this place. Because you see, the first people affected by crime and lawlessness are the law-abiding. This stuff has no impact on criminals or their sympathizers. And while the law-abiding head for the hills, the criminal class and their ilk not only remain, but make it their mission to come to Chicago if they're not here already, especially since the rest of America cooperates with the border security agenda voted into office in 2024. And that brings us to the real reason Chicago's now 2 months in to a military-style occupation that might need to last years. This lawless sanctuary cannot be allowed to wage war on our country from the inside, where its existence tempts criminals not here yet to make their way across our border, not for purposes of improving America, but to instead benefit from a red carpet of benefits provided by sanctuary politicians while paying gangs and cartels for that privilege. While at the same time, these politicians hate our president so much, they're willing to double down on insane no arrests, no jail policies that release criminals, which is why Chicago's sanctuary mobs have the confidence to act like this. So these people are not peacefully demonstrating. They have a designated protest area which they hopped out of and entered the road so they could get arrested in front of the news. But they're not worried about what happens after they get arrested. And their idea that this is what democracy looks like, that doesn't make any sense. What we're witnessing in Chicago is the epitome of democracy, because this is what America voted for. America voted for fugitives in the country illegally to face a consequence for doing that. And if these rioters would just stay out and mind their own business, these arrests would be mostly peaceful and nobody would be at risk. But these rioters, they don't care about any of that, because to them, democracy only means getting what they want.
See how great the outdoors can be with the Trax. You can take the wild out of the wilderness and experience nature your way. Lease a 2026 Trax LT for just $299 a month. Chevy Detroit. Together, let's drive.
Build a website you love with Wix. For your words.
10 minutes left on this one.
Stop!
Get out of it. I'm gonna do 2 more.
That's wild. This radicalized individual is assaulting federal agents with their vehicle. That doesn't make any sense. And she's got her kids in the car. This is bizarre. And the dumbest part of all this is she doesn't even know who ICE is after. She just saw federal agents and decided to get involved. Meanwhile, they're out there armed to the hilt, arresting individuals with connections to the criminals of the world. Gang members, fugitives, they didn't show up in this area of Illinois for no reason, but she sure did. She's here screaming because she can't tell the difference between immigrants and illegal immigrants. Probably because she doesn't want to. She's of the mind that everybody who's here is an immigrant, whether they came in legally or illegally. And sadly, as you're about to see, things here keep getting worse. So that woman just swiped these agents with her vehicle to do what? To stop them? To stop them from enforcing the law while destroying her vehicle? That's dumb. But this is what happens when you undergo 10 years of population decline due to radicalization. The only people still in this lawless sanctuary are those who think it should stay that way. And that would be the mobs and the criminals whose presence here is destroying the local economy instead of improving it. In fact, as you're about to see, Chicago's local economy has been so manipulated by illegal immigration and open borders policies that right now it's collapsing.
Some of those business owners I spoke with say that fear in the community because of the immigration enforcement crackdown has led to people in those neighborhoods to stay home.
Why is that?
Now they're just trying to survive. Everardo Garcia is the owner of Del Toro in Pilsen.
You start thinking about long-term survival.
Garcia says the economic impact has driven his and other businesses in the hardest hit areas to face difficult decisions to stay afloat.
This is not sustainable. It's,
Good night, Laura. Love
I
you.
guarantee you, if you have another 6 months of this, you'll see a lot of businesses close.
So I think the owner here has it partially wrong. People in Chicago, they're not staying in. If anything, they're coming out more often than ever before to chase around the federal government. And this includes illegal immigrants who are in Chicago who are joining in with these insurrection-style riots, revealing that these mobs, they're not afraid of ICE. Sure, some people are, and those would likely be people in the country illegally who just want to lie low and want to try to stay as long as they can and not attract too much attention to themselves, but that's certainly not everyone. And these mobs are agitated by their leaders who keep telling them they're on the right side of history and that the federal government is evil and needs to be stopped. So you've got two groups of people out there. You've got those who want to go out and engage in a war with the federal government. That's bringing people out of this restaurant. And then you've got people who are too afraid to go to the restaurant because they're here breaking the law and they don't want to experience a consequence for that behavior. And what this means is this gentleman's customer base, most of it anyways, is made up of lawless individuals in some form or another. His entire business is based on the illegitimate economic activity Chicago's leaders have allowed to take place there. And while he says it may not be sustainable, he's right, because his landlord is probably charging him much higher rent based on all of this fraudulent economic activity that the landlord knows a business here could benefit from when it's not supposed to.
Chased and detained by federal agents 2 weeks ago.
He was like 2 steps inside already when they just grab him and pull him out.
Franco says ICE and Border Patrol raids have led to less foot traffic.
We're about 30% lower than we usually supposed to be around this time, you know.
So they're losing huge amount of money, like a lot.
Right. Javier Yanez is the executive director of the Pilsen Chamber of Commerce. He tells me his group and others are working to keep local businesses alive.
We're in talks with local government officials, organizations, and other chambers to develop an emergency fund.
It's that time again. Wayfair's Black Friday sale is back. Right now, get up to 80% off area.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Why do you need an emergency fund of taxpayer money to support businesses who benefit from lawlessness, even if these businesses don't intend to do that? The fact that they're in a sanctuary and this place has told folks that they can stay there even if they're not supposed to be in America, and now they have less customers. And now perhaps many of the people that used to shop at these places have either been deported or have decided to self-deport so that they can come back legally at some period of time. Remember, people are getting paid up to $1,000 to obey our laws, self-deport, and start the process over the right way. If they want to come up with an emergency fund so that these businesses can make their inflated rent. That's not helping anybody. This economy needs to rebalance itself. And that's going to happen the moment these businesses tell their landlords to lower the rent because they don't have the customer base that they used to have. And once the rent goes down, all these places can stay. But you see, then the value of the landlord's property is going to go down. And if that happens, the sanctuary of Chicago is going to get less money in property taxes to fund its sanctuary open borders initiatives. And on top of all that, there are the activist judges who also want to stop ICE.
A judge in the Windy City making it harder for ICE officers to use tear gas. That ruling prompting a strong rebuke from DHS.
Extended that temporary restraining order and added one element that federal agents are required to wear body cameras while on the job in Chicagoland. Agents are restricted from using munitions like gas and pepper balls unless threatened, and they're required to give 2 warnings before deploying crowd control weapons. The new injunction lasts until Judge Ellis rules on the suit brought by the journalist group, the Chicago Headline Club, seeking to ban riot control weapons altogether.
So let me get this straight. Look at this scene right here. We got a Department of Homeland Security vehicle, and it is being driven by federal agents who are trying to do their job. Yet it is surrounded by activists who refuse to get out of the way and are getting way too close and have their faces covered, and who in some instances have been apprehended and have been caught carrying weapons. Now, if that's the situation, how is what we see on the screen here not a credible threat? How is a sanctuary mob that will not move, will not obey, will not get out of the way, not a credible threat against these agents? It's almost like this judge wants them to be put in harm's way and then subjected to physical harm before they do anything to defend themselves. That is absolutely ridiculous. They're not allowed to operate at all with any sense of self-preservation. They have to let the mobs win. That's what these judges want. They have to let them win, and that is just emboldening these radicals in this sanctuary city. And that's why these places should be banned. I can't believe it's even legal to have an area of the country that is a no-go zone for law enforcement, an area of the country that just says, you know what, we're not going to obey the law, and people are going to come here. We're going to help them hide in our community. If they commit a crime here and they're dangerous, we're just going to release them. We're not even going to tell you that that person's here in America. This is terrible. And the effect on Chicago is profound. Recently, a whole bunch of gang members were caught living in apartments in this city, living in a community of folks, terrorizing them, exploiting them, threatening them while living in these apartments, paying 0 rent. That's not good for anybody. It doesn't help an economy or a community to have gang members living in apartments for free while they're harassing every single person that lives near them. And you know what? When ICE raided that building and hauled those guys out of there, they did everybody a favor. That building is now safer. That community is now safer. The local police, who already have their hands full with these sanctuary rioters who attack them just as they attack ICE, now they are free to do more law enforcement. They don't have to go after gang members who don't exist anymore as far as residents of Chicago are concerned. If those individuals are deported, they can no longer be a threat to the immediate area they had gone into when they weren't even supposed to be there. But the other part of this that's wild is these sanctuary mobs and these rioters. These people are the new base of the Democrat Party in America. All of these people screaming, all of these people attacking law enforcement. You think these people can be negotiated with? Do you think their elected representatives who are scared of these people and want their votes are going to accomplish anything, vote for anything that might be good for America that President Trump might want to have passed? Of course not. That's why this whole government shutdown thing has been so ridiculous. There is no negotiating with somebody who has decided that they are morally opposed to every single thing that you support and has decided that you are evil and that you are fascism and that if you get an inch, an iron curtain has descended upon this country. How do you negotiate with those people? I don't think you can. And I think these senators in Washington, they better figure out how to reform their rules so they can do things democratically on a majority basis instead of this whole filibuster nonsense. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think about this.
Hey, cash videos. Last one's going to be Doug. 17 minutes. So all of the new people that are coming in, thank you for coming in and supporting every day at 5 o'clock between 4:30 and 5. The weekends are different.
and Navarro. Welcome to Doug in Exile. That's the good news. There's going to be a lot of Epstein stuff. You guys know that I hate promoting the conspiracy of the Epstein files, but now it's taken a different role in determining who gets stuck with this hot potato. And Trump they tried sticking it on his hand, and he flipped it right back on him. And now it's smearing all of the Democrats. Anything that helps Democrats lose, I'm all for. And if the Epstein files help the Democrats lose, then make them lose. Here, I'll make my case. First of all, welcome to you. Thanks for watching. I never feel like I deserve you guys as an audience. I got to earn it every day. I got to earn every thumbs up, every like, every comment, and every subscription. I actually want your views more than I want your subscription. Here is the Bill and Hillary text. This was from a quote by James Comer. Alert, the House Oversight Chairman, James Comer, is prepared to refer Bill and Hillary Clinton to the Department of Justice, that would be Pam Bondi, over their refusal to testify in front of Congress about their ties to Epstein. Now, why in the world, if you wanted to get the truth out and you're Bill and Hillary and you're trying to protect the children and you're just trying to indict Trump, why wouldn't you stand before Congress and answer questions? I'd go before Congress and answer about my involvement with Epstein because I did nothing with Epstein. But apparently Bill and Hillary know better. And I believe Hillary's involved, not for sexual stuff, gross, but because of donations made to the Clinton Foundation, because Epstein has donated, they say, over 80% to Democrat causes versus Republican. James Comer, quote, I expect the Clintons to be met with some fate that Bannon and Navarro were met with. The same fate that Bannon and Navarro were met with. Now, you guys know my standard. My standard is whatever the Democrats have said is the standard, we will make them live by it and make them pay. And now it's time for a sane word to my happy patriots who know that Medicare annual enrollment is right now. For some crazy reason, you haven't called my friends at Chapter for help. The call is free. And they're here to get you the right plan, not like many other Medicare brokers that just get you into some lame scam plan that makes them the most money. Look, one of my happy patriots sent me this. I called Chapter last Sunday afternoon, and immediately my call was answered. The young lady was very cordial and answered all my questions. She didn't find a better plan available for me that I qualify for. I was very pleased. And she gave me her number in case I have need of more information. Thanks, Doug. See, Chapter is here to help. They don't just try to milk you for money. They're honest, and I trust them. For the best in helping you compare Medicare plans, call Chapter at 631-961-8696. That's 631-961-8696. And tell them Doug in Exile sent you. Now, back to our show. Here's Trump's final announcement on the Epstein files. This is posted by Caroline Levitt. So if Caroline Levitt posts it, I'm going to say it. New statement from President Trump. He says, Jeffrey Epstein, who was charged by the Trump Justice Department in 2019. So for people that say, oh, he just now wants to release the files, he's the only one who has charged Epstein. He goes, not the Democrats. He was a lifelong Democrat, donated thousands of dollars, millions of dollars to Democrat politicians, and was deeply associated with many well-known Democrat figures such as Bill Clinton. There's the name again. This is who's going to end up holding the bag over all this Epstein stuff. It's going to be Bill and Hillary, who traveled on his plane 26 times. And there were Clinton Secret Service men who surround him who said he went to the back of the plane and pulled the curtain with two, they could not name their exact age, but he said they were very young women. Larry Summers, who just resigned from many boards, including Harvard, sleazebag political activist Reid Hoffman, Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who asked Epstein to donate to his campaign after Epstein was charged, so he knew he was taking money from an underage trafficker, Democrat Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett, and many more. Perhaps the truth about these Democrats and their association with Epstein will soon be revealed, because I've just signed the bill, all caps, to release the Epstein files. As everyone knows, I asked Speaker of the House Mike Johnson and Senate Majority Leader John Thune to pass the bill in the House and the Senate, respectively. Because of this request, these votes were almost unanimous in favor of passage. At my direction, the Department of Justice has already turned over close to 50,000 pages of documents to Congress. I'm going to go into some of those documents later today. This is boring and there's nothing there. Do not forget, the Biden administration did not turn over a single file or page related to Democrat Epstein, nor did they ever speak about him. Democrats have used this Epstein issue, which affects them far more than the Republican Party, in order to try to distract from our amazing victories, including the big, beautiful bill, tax cut bill, strong borders, no men and women's sports or transgender for everyone, ending DEI, stopping Biden's record-setting inflation, lowering prices, biggest tax and regulation cuts in history, ending 8 wars, rebuilding the military, knocking out Iran's nuclear capability, getting trillions of dollars invested in the USA. Scott Bessent said $30 trillion in the USA, creating the hottest country anywhere in the world, and even delivering a huge defeat in the Democrats on the recent shutdown disaster. So see, Trump is trying to get the GOP back on topic of his wins. And we're going to go to more of his wins later in this episode, so hold tight. For years, our great nation has had to endure Russia, Ukraine, impeachment hoax number 1, impeachment hoax number 2, and many other Democrat-created witch hunts and scams, all of which have been so terrible and divisive for our country and have been done to confuse, deflect, and distract from the great job that Republicans and the Trump administration are doing. This latest hoax will backfire on the Democrats, just as all the rest have. That is, it's going to bring votes to Trump, which is what we want. Thank you for your attention on this matter. Make America great again. Now, moving on. This is Comer with that letter again from Hakeem Jeffries. He's pushing back and just hammering him right now. Jeffries refuses to admit that his team sought money from Jeffrey Epstein post-conviction. Documents I subpoenaed from the Epstein estate clearly shows they wanted Epstein cash to build a Democrat majority, all of it from dirty underage child abusers like Epstein. But now Jeffries is calling me a liar. Just read the email. This is the email where they're requesting the money. So I'm showing you the branding side of this now of what's going. Here's Gutfeld tearing Jessica Tarloff apart.
I don't think this is the end of John. I am not.
Nobody thinks it's the end of Donald Trump. It could be the end for the Democrats. You're watching it happen in real time. I love how you say, you look at it, Hakeem, oh, it's just a fundraising email. As if it were a Republican, your party, the media would not interpret it in the worst light. For example, it's amazing how the brilliant Jasmine Crockett thinks there's only one Jeffrey Epstein, and that one Jeffrey Epstein somehow gave money to Lee Zeldin. No, I know this is hard to believe. There is more than one Jeffrey Epstein, just as if there are more than one Jesse Waters, but only one Greg Gutfeld. He was a doctor who gave money, but she knew that, unless you think she is retarded. And I don't think she is. I just think
I think she is.
She's deliberately pretended that she didn't know there might be another one. So when I talk about this is what I say is the big worry about this thing, and I'm for the release of them. You look at how these idiots are going to try to interpret everything in the worst possible way. So
this is everything. The interpretation of the Epstein files. We already know what the Democrats are going to do. Will they be successful? That depends on how successful they are at selling their brand, selling their product. The Epstein files, which are 50,000 documents, meaning Epstein, basically you can find anything in those documents that you want. You can find any narrative, any branding, any quote. It could be one line from Epstein going, I like Trump's shoes. And that's going to run the news media for a week, saying Jeffrey Epstein and Trump had a shoe thing. Believe me, in that many documents, you can find anything you want. So the Democrats just know they have confidence. They're going to run this through the media machine, and they think it's going to stick. Now, I'm pushing back here on my channel in exile because I'm going to destroy the Democrat Party with this stuff. That's what Trump and Comer are doing too, until it goes away, and it should go away quickly, but it won't go away if the Democrats gain traction with it. That's why I have to push back on them, make fun of them with this thing, and help destroy the Democrat Party with this stuff, even while, like in this show, I'm going to continue to champion Trump's huge wins. Here's one of them. This is the GOP posted this. See how the GOP is getting back on brand. So we attack and defend. We attack the Democrats with the Epstein files, and we defend with what Trump is doing for America, just so you guys know my agenda and my bias. I always tell you so you can interpret and make your own decision, because I think you're a human being with a brain rolling around in your head, capable of making your own decisions without me telling you what to think. I just give you my opinion. You might say, hey, that's a good idea. That's true. You might say it's false and go, well, Doug, I'm not there with you. Here's the post says the Trump effect. September of 2025, the jobs have come in. 119,000 new jobs added, new created, invented jobs by Trump in his first administration. And then here's Thomas Massie. Not a Republican, a Democrat, a libertarian, an independent who has no way to help MAGA. He is not here to carry the ball. He's not here to save America. He's principled. Thomas Massie writes, real Donald Trump, and he's texting this to real Donald Trump, just signed the Epstein Files Transparency Act that Ro Khanna, a Democrat that Thomas Massie went to bed with. Ro Khanna and I, oh, good job, you aligned with him, forced through Congress. Notice Trump was touting his party and his administration's conviction of Epstein in 2019. Thomas Massie won't mention it because he's trying to imply that Trump's trying to cover this thing up. Trump only didn't want to focus on it because he didn't want to distract from his own good work. Then Thomas Massie writes, AG Pam Bondi, so now he's putting pressure on her, now has 30 days to release these files. Here's the release of the document. This is in the actual bill that became a law, Epstein Files Transparency Act, release of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein. Not later than 30 days after the date of enactment of this act, the Attorney General shall. So Pam Bondi shall make the documents public. Now, I actually think this is going to damage a lot of innocent people because of how vast and broad this law goes to releasing the files. Anyone who had coffee with Jeffrey Epstein, and the idea that Jeffrey Epstein, he might have talked to Billy Graham for all I know. You know what I mean? And suddenly it's, look who had coffee with him. And I'm going to go into some of the conversations that Jeffrey had in some of these letters. It's going to be a searchable database where any of you is going to be able to go online and search this database of complete garbage. And I don't mean pornographic stuff. I mean boring stuff where he discussed it. I'm going to show you in a future video how he was talking about reading Chekhov and reading the great works. And it's all this elite Democrat, rich person, boring snobbery, talking about what's the best little dog for women to have. And it's boring. So whatever you think is in there, there's nothing about the Jews and Mossad in there. There's no conspiracy in there. There's no list of clients in there. Nowhere in there. And if anyone knew about it, Pam Bondi would know, Trump would know, Kash Patel would know by now. And certainly the entire Democrat Party would know what's in there. They're going to release grand jury information of secret people that should not be exposed. We've always protected the grand jury. This is why Mike Johnson's so upset about this release. And the Democrats will say he's just trying to cover up for pedos. No, that's not true. They're covering up their methods, their sources. If they have a method, if they have a spy on the inside, this person will not be able to work for the rest of their life. It's not going to save one victim or help one person. That's my beef. Here's from the MAGA Storm talking about Pam Bondi has to release those documents. Pam Bondi is too busy. Let's check in on Pam Bondi since Thomas Massie appears to be fascinated by her, other than the good work that she's doing in Florida, actually saving kids' lives. Here's what Pam Bondi's actually doing to save children.
Just this week, Joint Task Force Alpha took 4 major enforcement actions. Right here in Tampa, we unsealed the indictment charging 12 defendants operating a massive illegal smuggling ring. The defendants engaged in a conspiracy to bring illegal aliens from Cuba to the U.S. for profit. They coached their clients, including children, who came to airports alone, came to our country alone, were put on planes for connecting flights, lied to Border Patrol agents due to...
Your connections to the past are waiting. Get Ancestry DNA for only $29.
Your first shave won't be easy, but we didn't build easy. We built better. Meet the Single Edge by Supply.
coaching and law enforcement.
Okay, now who's going to indict this woman's character? Tell me how she's a sellout. Tell me how she's ineffective. Tell me how she's doing nothing. There are arrests made, thousands of arrests. You won't pay attention to them. This is to the anti-Pam Bondi people. You have no argument. You have no position. She's made thousands of arrests of traffickers, but because she won't go and play Inspector Clouseau, Sherlock Holmes on an ancient dead case where no one's been able to find anything other than nailing Epstein himself. She's doing actual work. I don't believe it that people now, our nature, our fallen nature wants to make us feel so self-righteous. I'm so self-righteous for going after Epstein. That's what culture tells you. You get a Scooby snack. You're so self-righteous. No, this is the actual good work being done by Pam Bondi.
They charged up to $40,000 per victim. They used Zelle to transfer over $7 million over the course of this scheme, and I believe had profits, cash of over $18 million.
$18 million in cash that they have seized. They were charging up to $40,000 per person to come in from Cuba, including children that were here, flown in alone, little Pepito, to be sold to a sweaty goon who's probably a Democrat, and she's busting them, arresting them, hundreds of arrests, and people dare to impugn this woman's character. Okay, I'll give you your opinion. It just has no credibility behind it like mine. I'm trying to inform my opinion on actual facts, sober facts. Look, this doesn't make the front page of the news. This clip that I just showed you will not explode all around the internet. But if Trump and Epstein ever talked about shoes, that would be suck up the news for 3 weeks, and I'm trying to free your mind from media and culture and Democrat slavery. Subscribe, and we'll continue.
Okay. Another good night of intel. A lot of good stuff out. Thanks, Lisa, for coming back. And so 5 o'clock is the time. Weekends are different. So thanks to all the new people that came in. Appreciate support. So another day of intel. So God bless everybody. Remember, please hit the like. And stay safe, stay strong. Keep the faith. And Auntie Karen's sign that she gave me. Never give up. So signing off for until tomorrow evening, Friday. Chico and Dude signing off.